breakthrough, which is part of the expanding so-called American Christian movie genre. Now, let me start at the beginning by saying I have nothing against the idea of religion in cinema. My favourite movie of all time is The Exorcist. And here's a heads up, there's a lot of religion in The Exorcist. Is
that right?
It's like that bit in Angel Heart when, you know, when Mickey Rourke is talking to Robert De Niro's Louis Cypher. Got it? Mm-hmm. And he says, there's a lot of religion mixed up in this thing. Okay, so this runs all the way through movies. I recently did a program about disaster movies, which are literally written like biblical morality tales. So there is this, you know, old as the hills, nothing, and there is good and there is bad. But there is this weird kind of genre now of, in inverted commas, American Christian movies. This is one of them, based on a book, The Impossible, Not That One, which has the subtitle The Miraculous Story of a Mother's Faith in Her Child's Resurrection. The movie is produced by Devon Franklin, whose other titles include Miracles from Heaven and Heaven is Real. So you kind of know the area that we're in. So Chrissy Metz is Joyce Smith, who, along with her husband, Brian, played by Josh Lucas, they have an adopted son, John, played by Marcel Ruiz, and they're churchgoers. And she has a problem with the new pastor, who's played by Topher Grace, who's very sort of razzy and, you know, razzmatazz and does sort of, you know, Christian rap on stage, and she doesn't kind of quite approve. There's a whole little thing going on there. Then one day the kid is playing on the ice with his friends. The ice breaks. Oh, you know, it's a wonderful life. Ice breaks. Boys go into the water. True story, incidentally. Boys go into the water. Emergency services arrive. Two of them are out. Another one is under the ice for quite a long time. By the time they get him to the hospital, he is in an absolutely terrible state. He has no pulse. He's not breathing. They try to bring him back. I've read some synopses which say he's declared to be dead, but I don't think that's quite what happens. But all hope is lost, and his mother arrives, desperate for a miracle. And the next thing, a pulse starts. But the doctors are still very concerned that the pulse is very, very weak. Is this enough?
I'm sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. But I don't believe John will survive the night. If you have family and friends that you want to call to come to see John, now would be the time to do it.
I've been told that you're the best, Dr. Garrett.
I'm an expert at my field, ma'am.
No, you're the best. World-renowned, in fact. Or was I misinformed?
No, you were not.
I know that you don't know my son. But my John is a fighter and he doesn't give up. So I need you to go and be the best for John. Nothing less. And you just let God do the rest.
So, you know, Dennis Haysbert, Chrissy Metz, Topher Grace, I mean, you know, talented performers. But I think you could hear from that clip the tone of the film. I mean, for a start, the orchestra was going, "Here we are, be involved, there is something happening."
Is that what
it's one of those kind of... And the film is directed by Roxanne Dawson, whose pedigree is from television, and the whole thing. I mean, I was saying before about, you know, Paw Patrol, Mighty Pups being an extended TV episode. This is something that should be on television on a Wednesday afternoon. Honestly, I don't know what it's doing in British cinemas, and I can't imagine that it's going to find much of a market. There is a market for it in American cinemas, but it's a very, very different audience. I have, as I said, I have nothing against the idea of dealing with religion on screen, but to deal with it in a way which is so thuddingly crass really is quite depressing. The world is cutesy apple pie, has no more relationship to reality than it does to a TV soap. The doctors spend the whole time scratching their heads and going, wow, well, how can this be happening? It's almost as if it's a miracle. And there is a terrible scene in which all the friends turn up outside the hospital and sing in this incredibly produced way that reminded me of that brilliant scene in Brassed Off, when Pete Postlethwaite is in hospital and the brass band turn up outside. And you could put, if you're doing a Secret of Cinema, you'd put these two scenes together and go, one of these is really moving and one of these is really rubbish. Which is which? And, you know, I suddenly start thinking, as soon as you remember a movie that's actually good and actually has earned the right to do that kind of tough sentimentality, this didn't earn the right to do it at all. There is one interesting thing in it, in which at one point somebody says, why is it that God would save this person but not somebody else? And you think, oh, okay, here we go. Meat and potato, we're getting into the meat of it. And then the film goes, and then moves on. So it's like there is literally one moment when it raises an interesting theological problem and then goes, and gets back to doing the stuff that it was doing before. And I mean, it is in a very real sense, preaching to the choir. It is a movie that is designed for an audience that are completely on board already. But I don't think that I can forgive it for its dramatic ineptitude, its awful televisual sentimentality, its syrupy, drippy score, and its total inability to construct a properly engaging drama out of a story which is clearly, an astonishing story. And yet somehow it just reduces it all to the level of a daytime TV soap.